So you can see that this has become, for Pakistan, one of the most important countries in Asia, the collaboration and cooperation in economic field with China as a guarantor for a better tomorrow for its people. Coming now to Professor John Gong, where we see China and Asian countries moving forward. Asia is on a roll, moving forward, as you say, with a lot of vibrance and with a lot of dynamism as the driving force of the global economy. But we also see perhaps some other elements at play, and especially I want to focus on the role of the United States in the Asia Pacific. And what is, in your view, the role that the United States is playing in this region? And is it a plus for regional security, regional stability and development, or is it detrimental to the broader trend which we see in Asia that is being unfolded through this economic cooperation and connectivity?
First of all, China's cooperation doesn't have any political attachment, political agenda attached, strings attached. First of all, China is not interested in competing with the Western world, and particularly Washington, on ideology. We don't want to influence other countries in terms of exporting our ideology or exporting our economic or political development model. That's the first thing. Second thing, China typically doesn't, is not interested in play this kind of a geopolitical game. I think China's presence in the Middle East or even in the ASEAN countries is a case in point. We are not trying to compete with Washington on these geopolitical agendas. We don't insist. I mean, the BI projects do not insist on achieving some kind of a geopolitical goal at all. It's purely based on bilateral negotiation for pursuing mutual economic interests, commercial interests. The idea that somehow China is seeking sphere of influence, as sometimes they call it in international relations, it's total nonsense. I mean, Chinese projects, we have projects in countries that are being sanctioned by Washington. We also have projects in countries that are close allies of Washington. Saudi Arabia is a very good point. It's a very good example. The third thing I want to point out is that China's cooperation with the third world countries or developing countries is really about mutually developing. I think BI projects lays very much emphasis on creating local jobs, for example, emphasis on industrialization opportunities, and specifically setting up manufacturing operations in these countries. It's not just a one-way exploitation, and sometimes this is an excuse by the West that is being made an analogy to the colonial era, particularly I think in this case in Africa. We're truly genuinely, looking at opportunities from a mutual perspective, from mutual economic interest perspective.
Yes, and I think the important thing which you said is that China has no underlying vested interest or a hidden agenda or any geopolitical agenda, unlike some of the Western countries, and that is why it is driven basically by economic considerations of connectivity, and I think that is the key element. Professor John Gong mentioned about 800 US bases all over the world, out of which half of them, 400, are in Asia alone, and they're adding to that recently in the Philippines also. So given that context, Ambassador Moin Haque, we see these two contrasting worldviews or narratives. A very security-centric, military-driven worldview of Washington, which is based on a Cold War mindset of containment. And then from the China side, there is basically the Belt and Road Initiative and other economic initiatives based on cooperation, connectivity, and moving forward together. So how do you view that Asian countries can meet these challenges that are emerging in the context of what we have just discussed? Ambassador Moin Haque.
And I think these, seeing from Pakistan, which is a very close friend of China and which has a very long history of very cooperative and friendly relationship with China, I think that this is these untruths, which are now being generated and accepted worldwide, are due to an ecosystem which are comprised of the best intelligence agencies in the world and best newspapers. And in our region, I think it is, and sir, I'm reminded of 1971 when Pakistan played a role of bringing China and the United States together through the very famous Henry Kissinger visit through Pakistan to China and the establishment of the diplomatic relations, the signing of the joint communiques, which for the last 50 years provided a blueprint for the two countries to come together, and which I think was good news for the entire world, the two major powers cooperating in every field. It's very sad that recently we have seen a shift in Washington, seeing China as a threat. Ironically, if you look at the history, I was reading a book by Singapore Foreign Minister Kishore Mehbubani that has China One, where he mentioned that from year 1 to year 1840, China, along with India, have been the two predominant powers. It is only in the last 200 years that the West has now dominated the international scene, which to him and to me also is an aberration. So China is emerging or rising to set that historical record. The rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is taking place. So we in Asia, I think, as mentioned by Professor Gong also in the beginning, that in China has the largest trading partner is ASEAN. In the ASEAN countries don't want to see it in black and white. It's not a zero-sum game. We want to have cooperative, friendly relationship with all the major powers. I think United States is in a position to see that their policies in the region are dividing the nations, are polarizing the nations, the Quad or AUKUS, these are all precepts of the Cold War mentality. And they need to move forward and co-opt with China. I think Chinese leaders have always said that the world is a big place for the two powers to coexist peacefully. I think the United States and Washington and the American leaders need to heed to the voices, these voices, and co-opt China in a very peaceful relationship, which is a win-win for all of us.